everybody. Welcome to the Hallmarkies podcast. I'm so excited today. We have a very special guest. We have the person who literally wrote the book on Christmas TV movies, and it's going to be very fun to talk about. I am Rachel, and I'm here talking to Joanna Wilson, who wrote the 'Tis the Season TV, the encyclopedia of Christmas-themed episodes, specials, and made-for-TV movies. So this is very exciting. And Joanna, thanks so much for coming on the podcast.
Hi, Rachel. Thanks for having me. This is exciting for me, too.
Yeah, this is so much fun. So what we like to do with our guests is just give you a chance, introduce yourself, and tell us, how did you come to write your book?
Well, I've always been a TV junkie from my earliest days. And I have a bachelor's degree in film studies. And combining that with my love of pop culture, I knew I wanted to write about something on television or something in the film industry. And I was actually inspired by another book, which was about a book about the history of the animation company Rankin Bass. You might remember Rankin Bass made the cartoon Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, Frosty the Snowman. They have a long career. This studio made a lot of Christmas animated TV specials, as well as Saturday morning cartoon series and theatrical release movies, what have you. Anyway, I was just so excited that somebody wrote this history book about this animated TV studio. I began to look more into Christmas entertainment, and I just fell in love with the entire genre and began to specialize and do research. And that research all turned into the encyclopedia, 'Tis the Season TV.
Amazing. So were you always somebody who loved Christmas and Christmas, or was it just kind of how it all worked out?
Well, I mean, who doesn't like Christmas?
Yeah,
right? It's the happiest time of the year.
Right.
But I actually consider myself a TV researcher and writer and historian, and just specialize in Christmas entertainment.
Yeah. Interesting. So, yeah, you grew up kind of watching it. Were there particular shorts and specials and things like that you particularly loved growing up?
Well, absolutely. And when I think of Christmas, the first thing that comes to my mind is always, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, that charming animated TV special, but also a Charlie Brown Christmas. How the Grinch Stole Christmas, the original 1966 animated TV special. Those animated TV specials are still real close to my heart. And, I grew up watching them. They still speak to me each Christmas and really inspire my holiday spirit. Yeah.
Wow, that's great. Well, how long did it take you? I mean, if people don't realize, this is a very, it's over 700 pages, this book. So how long did it take you to watch all this and write all of it and to finish the book?
Yeah, I started in the year 2000. So that book came out in 2010. So it was 10 years of research.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm excited to even share with you that second edition, an updated version of the encyclopedia, is coming out in 2020. So that's next year. And it will be twice as long.
That's amazing. Because, the Christmas TV movie / special marketplace has just ballooned since then. So I can only imagine that the book is twice as long.
It is, yes. And isn't that fascinating? This is really a growing market. It's a growing industry. It continues to expand. It continues to grow, just as you say. It's very fascinating. I consider what I do, I'm very lucky. I love what I do. Watching these Christmas specials and movies and TV episodes all year long.
Yeah. Do you ever get just sick of Christmas? Like, you don't even want to watching it?
Well, and I love television and I love movies. So what I do, I consider myself lucky that I get to follow my passion.
Uh-huh.
And to be quite honest, I'm endlessly surprised by what new things, even within restrictions of what's considered Christmas,
Uh-huh.
I'm still endlessly surprised by new programs that come out. Not everything is fantastic that's written to be Christmas or to be
Uh-huh.
entertaining at Christmas, but there are always really good things and new things that are generated each year. There's always a
Yeah.
couple that sort of stand out.
Yeah.
And I still find these things utterly fascinating, even 20 years later.
Yeah. It is interesting because even at the ones that don't work, it's when you watch so many of these films when you watch so many of the same genre, it's kind of an interesting experience to watch the ones that don't work because you can be like, this is basically the same as the ones that so many of the ones that do work. So why does this one not work? And so that's kind of an interesting thought experiment too. Like, is it just the chemistry? Is it just maybe the production? What is it that makes this one not gel for me when a very similar as far as structure film really works for me? I don't know. I think that's interesting. And I think that's kind of the value of being a completionist is it forces you to watch maybe things you wouldn't normally watch that you end up liking, and it ends up kind of getting you to refine your tastes and your and just have a more nuanced understanding of what works and what doesn't work, as opposed to, I don't know, just sort of a base, that was good, that was bad kind of response.
I think you and I have a lot in common. You and I think alike. Exactly. I agree with what you're saying. It just when I think I've seen every possible adaptation of Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol,
Right.
I'll see another one and I'll be like, oh my goodness, I never imagined they would go in this direction. Isn't this fascinating?
Right.
You just never know. And that some of that surprise and that continual expression of what is Christmas and what makes a Christmas story continues to fascinate me. It's interesting.
It's true. I watched 85, and you probably had me well beat, but last year I watched 85 new Christmas Christmas movies slash, and it was very interesting, and I liked the fact that it kind of forced me to watch things I wouldn't normally watch. Like I watched Santa Jaws, and I actually ended up enjoying it. So
I did too.
Right?
So funny.
It was fun. I liked the fact that it was the kids' creativity, his art kind of coming to life, and I thought that it was just overall it was way more creative and than I expected it to be, and I don't know.
It was different, something new, something different. It took me in a different direction.
Yeah.
I found it fascinating too.
And I always appreciate in any film, but especially in these small productions, when you really feel like people are trying. Like because there's definitely ones where you're like, okay, they kind of phoned it in here. Like they all look kind of bored. They don't, they're not. It happens. But then there's other ones where it's like, boy, these people were given a kit to make a Christmas movie. Like, here's your job, make a Christmas movie. And there's some people who just kind of phone it in. And then there's other people who you can just tell were really trying. I feel like the Santa Jaws people were really trying to make a good movie. They, like, in my opinion, compared to the Sharknado movies, as an example, where I just feel like those are so lazy. I felt like here's a satire, a fun horror comedy, whatever, where people are genuinely trying. And so I appreciate that.
Yeah, you're right. Not all Christmas movies and not all TV movies, but not all Christmas TV movies are made equal.
Uh-huh.
And the ones that have heart, the ones that seem to come from some other sort of genuine place or intention to entertain, those really rise to the top, and you can tell.
Yeah.
Despite budget limitations, despite casting limitations, despite whatever limitations they have, the ones that have heart, that really rise to the top.
Yeah, for sure. So particularly with TV specials, I'm curious what do you think makes a Christmas TV special or episode of a show? What do you think makes it work? And what are some of your favorites that you think, wow, that series really nailed the holiday episode?
Wow, this is actually a really complex question, and I'm
Okay, good.
I'm not sure I have all the answers.
Okay.
But what I find, to sort of address your question, what I find, and I never anticipated this when I started this project of, exclusively writing about Christmas entertainment, but what I found over the last years is that I end up specializing in talking about and describing nostalgia.
Mm.
So any kind of Christmas story on television or in movies that actually embraces or inspires nostalgia are the ones that really are the ones that we connect with and that we turn to again and again and again. And this has a lot to do with Christmas entertainment that we find fulfilling as a culture. Our Christmas movies or Christmas TV episodes or specials that we want to turn to again and again. And this is not how we consume other forms of entertainment. The summer blockbusters at the theaters, or not every episode that's made of a series, not every special that's generated, are ones that we want to go back to year after year after year. We see them, we consume them, and then we move on. Perhaps we look for a new story or something else. But Christmas entertainment, and the best of Christmas entertainment, are stories that we want to go back to. And sometimes, this experience of tradition and ritual and turning back to these stories again and again become generational. It becomes something that we want to share with our children when eventually we grow up and have children. And now we're even finding, with the history of television and even the history of motion pictures, we not only connect with them so strongly, but we not only share them with our children, we continue to watch them again and again, and we share them with our grandchildren. Yeah. This is a multi-generational experience that we want to connect to again and again each year at Christmas time. So to sort of more directly address your question, why do we watch Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, this TV animated special, again and again? And by the way, that's more than 50 years old.
Yeah.
It still airs on a major network on TV every year. In fact, it has aired every year since 1964, right. Because people still want to see that, and they still want to watch it again. And it's connected to nostalgia, and it's connected to inspiring our Christmas spirit. Once we see that every year, whether it's late November or early December, then it's Christmas for us. It somehow triggers this feeling in all of us as viewers. Now we know it's Christmas, whether it's Rudolph, and we all have different answers for this question, but whether it's Rudolph or it's Charlie Brown or it's Frosty the Snowman, and there are many of these things, but many of these TV specials, but it's, it starts that Christmas feeling for us.
Yeah. I have some of my favorites are, I think it's really interesting because The Simpsons literally started as a Christmas episode. The very first episode of the whole show. And you think of what a legacy that show has become. It's pretty incredible. But I think you're right. In the original Simpsons episode, these Simpsons roasting on an open fire, it's all about Homer trying to get presents for the kids, but he's lost all the money, and he ends up working as a Santa at a time, and then the big kind of reveal is that he gets them this dog, and yes, that's right, and so it's really, 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 heartwarming and sweet. And it goes back to sort of the major, with all the shenanigans and craziness and everything in the show over the years. The core of the show is about this family that in the end does love each other. And I think what a perfect start to this show, but to have it at Christmas is very interesting to me.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Isn't it fascinating that first episode of The Simpsons, as you mentioned, came out in '89.
Mm-hmm.
So we're literally approaching, 30 years
Yep.
on that.
It's
Yeah.
crazy. I mean, yeah, when you think when it first came out, its big competition was the Cosby Show. How crazy is that? It's really, really good nuts. But I also love on the Mary Tyler Moore Show, the Christmas episode, because she's the one, she's very excited. There's multiple episodes, but the one I'm thinking of is she's very excited to go home with her family and everything like that. And and Lou doesn't want to tell her at first that she has to work Christmas, and she ends up because somebody has to man the news reel or whatever they did back then, and so she's very sad, and and then basically they all end up kind of coming to spend time with her, and so she's not alone at Christmas. It's really sweet. That's definitely one of my favorites.
Yes, and it's one of my favorites too. And it's also that's the first season of Mary Tyler Moore Show.
I think so. I'm
Yeah.
not positive, but I think so.
Yes. But it's also one of those that often critics point to, in the top 10 of all Christmas TV, everybody's favorite Christmas TV episode of all time. And it as you pointed out, it's it's a workplace sitcom. So she's forced to work, and how relevant that is. How many of us still find ourselves, almost 50 years later, still struggling with those emotions and those complex feelings when we wish we were with friends and family at Christmas, but instead we find ourselves having to work or doing something else. And the sadness that comes with that. And Mary and her friends, Lou and Murray and
Right.
Ted and Dexter, all like helping her and supporting her in that episode. It's a very great story.
Yeah. Did you have any others that were particular favorites? Any episodes?
Well, I love the ones that I grew up watching, just like everybody else. I love the Christmas episode of the Dick Van Dyke Show called Alan Brady Presents. It's actually a variety show within a show. So Rob Petrie and his co-workers, the TV writers for the Alan Brady Show, they sing and dance and perform music all within, the half-hour format of that comedy show. I still love watching that. I have all the songs memorized, and when I see it on TV, I love singing along.
Yeah. Well, that's one thing I was going to say. I think that if a special or movie can successfully tap into music for the holidays, I think it really helps it become more timeless. I don't think that we would still be as in love with Charlie Brown Christmas, for instance, without that music. I think it really helps. And same thing, of course, with How the Grinch Stole Christmas. I mean, even more so probably, is that song is so memorable and so funny. It's so iconic.
Yes, I wholeheartedly agree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What else do you think makes particularly Charlie Brown Christmas so beloved for so long?
Well, many people don't even realize that was the first time the Peanuts characters were ever animated. We've come to get used to seeing, the Peanuts characters in the Halloween special with Linus staying overnight in the Great Pumpkin Patch. We're used to the Valentine's Day special and the Thanksgiving special, and even there have been several reincarnations of animated series with the Peanuts characters and Snoopy. But that Christmas special was the first time, we got to see the animated characters that we knew well from the comic strip. And the characters just come to life in that special.
Yeah. I think it rings so emotionally true because Charlie Brown is such an honest character. He doesn't have any affronts or he's honest about how he feels, and I think that we as humans just respond to that. And
absolutely.
Yeah,
and if I can point out in that special too, he's searching for his Christmas spirit. He doesn't feel Christmas spirit. He sees it all around himself, but he doesn't feel it yet. And there's this melancholy and this sort of sadness of, he feels like he's missing out, he's missing something, and he doesn't know how to recapture it. And this was one of the first times we ever, I mean, this is a child going through this struggle, but it speaks to all of us, even as an adult, or even as adults. And what's fascinating is, that animated special came out in 1965, and that theme of finding or looking for, struggling to recapture the Christmas spirit has been imitated a million times since. It's almost become a cliche, but it first started right there on that Charlie Brown Christmas special.
What I think really works where a lot of them don't work is that when Linus recites Luke 2, like, even if you don't believe in the Christ story, even if you're not a religious person, that's an emotionally true moment. It's one character sharing what he believes. And so, even, at least that's my opinion, is even if you don't believe the same thing as Linus, you can recognize this is an emotionally true, honest moment. And that's why I think it works so well.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And a lot of times it just isn't coming from such a true place. So it makes it feel cloying. It makes it feel, I don't know, just not as good. A couple others that I do, I love a lot of the Muppets for their TV specials. I love the Sesame Street Christmas. I think it's like a Christmas Eve on Sesame Street or something.
There have been quite a few Sesame
Street but
yes.
I love the original one with Big Bird worrying about how Santa's going to get down the roof, down the chimney, and how everybody gets worried that he's lost. And I love the whole Gift of the Magi thing between Bert and Ernie. It's so good. And I mean, Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas is my favorite secular Christmas carol, non-spiritual Christmas carol. And I just love that in there when they sing that at the end. And the whole thing with Mr. Hooper is really sweet. And I think that's one of my definitely one of my favorites. And also the Muppet Family Christmas, where you get the Muppets, Sesame Street, Fraggle Rock, and Muppet Babies all together is pretty cool.
Yeah, even a little cameo by Jim Henson himself.
Yeah. So that one's a lot of fun. And so there's some really, really good Christmas specials out there. And so when you finished the book, the first book, it was just kind of at the very beginning of the countdown to Christmas as far as Hallmark is concerned.
That's right.
Yeah, it's
Hallmark movies were already being made, but it was just I wasn't able to capture what Countdown to Christmas was in that encyclopedia. Yeah,
because this is the 10-year anniversary, and so that would have been right around the publication of the book. But you certainly have obviously a ton of TV movies in the book. And what do you make of this whole sort of transformation of sort of romantic comedies and sometimes dramas as well, this just mammoth thing that's happened in the last decade as far as Christmas movies?
Well, I find it fascinating too that we can even just say Hallmark movies, and or Hallmark Christmas movies, and it's become a title that almost stands in for any TV Christmas movie.
Yeah, that's true.
Their formula is so strong, and their presence, they've come to dominate the industry. I regularly see people talking about Christmas TV movies, and they're just generically using the term Hallmark Christmas TV movies to sort of describe even the ones that are made on, Lifetime or made on Ion, Up TV,
right,
other networks. But in fact, almost like any kind of sandwich cookie is called an Oreo. It's not every sandwich cookie is an Oreo, but yet we use that term Oreo to just sort of describe any sort of. That's how dominant Hallmark Christmas movies really have become. And I find that utterly fascinating.
Yeah.
And if you look back, as I mentioned earlier, yeah, Countdown to Christmas, which is celebrating its 10th anniversary this year, that wasn't the beginning of Hallmark Christmas TV movies. There
Right.
were Hallmark Christmas TV movies before 2010, but what Countdown to Christmas is sort of honoring is this sort of programming block that they now have done for 10 years that really, and they continue to release more, increase every year. It gets bigger and bigger. They release more and more original Hallmark Christmas TV movies. But it became a programming block that really dominates the rest of the production of Christmas TV movies across the entire spectrum of television.
Yeah.
Really fascinating.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, why do you think that these films and Countdown to Christmas has become so popular? What do you think that they have done right that has really made them such hits?
Well, I think Hallmark has figured out the formula that works for them, for their demographics. And let's just be honest, their demographics are women, and they're middle-aged women. They're not even the youngest of women, or, teen viewers. Right. And this is where we are in television now, is every network has its own demographic that it's looking to capture their attention and sell ad space. So Hallmark has figured out middle-aged women, they're the consumers of America. We can sell these ads, and these are the stories that they want. And they have perfected this formula. And this formula is, just as you're pointing out, romances, and they're sort of light comedies and dramas. But just like every other TV movie and the best of TV movies, we've got internal stories being told here. These aren't action films. These aren't disaster sequences that Hallmark makes. These are emotional stories told mostly in close-ups and medium shots about the emotional lives of their characters. And here on Hallmark, we're talking about women. And at Christmas time, I hear viewers sometimes complain, or at least remark that they've identified, that they recognize that there is a formula here. And doesn't Hallmark know that, every movie should be different, and every movie should start, that they're actually restricting their formula. And I think people that point this out are sort of missing the point. Yeah. Hallmark has refined this formula because that's what viewers want. This is what has become popular for them. And I think at Christmas time, I think one of the secrets to their success is women are often, left to sort of plan and arrange and organize the Christmas celebration for the family, for the home. And the last thing they want are surprises. Yeah. We already can't control Uncle Max, who's going to come and talk politics. We can't control all the toddler nieces and nephews that come over to the home who are screaming and yelling and demanding their attention. And so this is one of those things that Hallmark has figured out. We're going to give a predictable, happy ending love story, because nobody wants to be alone at Christmas, right? We want to be with people that like us. And this has become a very satisfying experience for viewers. It's predictable. We know what's going to happen. And we want to escape the real world and find ourselves in this place that's going to give us a happy ending with a character that finds love, finds forgiveness or a second chance, is surrounded by family, and is surrounded by a place where she's got a new chance, a new lease, and meaningful lifestyle.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I think that formula films, despite what film Twitter and erudites might say, formula films are not inherently uncreative. Yes. I personally think that a formula can give people a opportunity to be creative in a different kind of way, because it gives you kind of a, it gives you kind of a kit. That here is your kit to making a Christmas movie or making a Marvel movie or whatever. There's a formula. This is going to be successful. Now, as a director, as a writer, movie maker, whatever, you can then add your own flair, your own personality, your own ideas to make it your film. But here we're going to save you from having to reinvent the wheel with every movie. And so I think that I don't know, it's interesting because sometimes I feel like I like to compare, in my opinion, the Marvel movies versus the Star Wars movies. This is just my opinion here. Whereas I feel like the Marvel movies has been really successful because they've been able to work with so many different directors, and they've been able to say, okay, here's the Marvel formula. Now go do your thing. Go make it fun. Go make it your own style. Make it your own thing. And okay, the basic framework of what you're sitting down to see when you go to see a Marvel movie. The problem I have with the recent Star Wars movies, this just personally, is that I feel like every director is being asked to reinvent the wheel. And so you might have a one movie is all of a sudden a war movie, and one movie it's a space western, and one movie it's not as satisfying for a viewer, for me at least, and it ends up just kind of feeling sort of muddled and sort of all over the place. And you're dealing, and so that's what I think that Hallmark does so well, is they say to these people, here's your kit, here's your formula, now go have fun with it. And so it's surprising the number of kind of fun writing, fun performances, some different things that come out of these, despite the fact that at the core they are very similar.
Yes, and the proof in the pudding is that viewers continue to tune in. They want these predictable formula stories.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The ratings continue to rise. They're as popular as ever, and Hallmark is able to make more and more movies every year because these continue to be very, very successful for them. They know what they're doing.
Yeah, oh, for sure. I mean, do they reach a point of sort of critical burnout when they have, now we're getting 40 Christmas movies? Do you think there'll ever be a point where it's like, okay?
Well, and realistically speaking, of course, there has to be a critical mass.
Yeah.
I don't know when that's going to be, and it's impossible for me to predict. And I think Hallmark is also like, well, we don't know either. Let's just keep going and see where this leads.
Right.
I think it also speaks to the success of this formula, the fact that all the other networks that make Christmas TV movies are following that same formula. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So if you watch a Lifetime original Christmas TV movie, you're going to see, that same formula. It's a romance with a woman at the lead. And it's going to follow that format. Ion, Up, and they all make slightly different changes because they all have different demographics, but it's Netflix. They're all so similar. Most people can't even tell the difference. And again, we're back to that whole generic term of a Hallmark Christmas TV movie, because to refer to the entire industry, because they're just so similar. Even when the clearly the budgets for these different Christmas TV movies are different according to the different networks. Hallmark is paying more per movie, behind the production for each of their movies.
Sure.
Lifetime is lesser budget, Ion even lesser budget, etc. But they still are following that same sort of formula pattern because it is successful for Hallmark.
Do you have a favorite Hallmark Christmas movie that you think really nailed it?
I have a lot of
favorites
of Hallmark Christmas TV movies that I think nailed it. But let me see. I have, and the titles are so similar. Isn't that funny?
Well, and sometimes the titles have absolutely nothing to do with the movie, which is really funny to me.
But even if I just look back just 1 year, if I just look back to the 2018.
Yeah, what was your favorite last year?
I liked, I always like Candace Cameron Bure in the movies that she does. Somehow her presence, she's got enough gravitas and she's got enough experience on film, on television. She knows how to really elevate a script. And so I like Shoe Addict's Christmas.
Yeah, that was one of my favorites as well. She does a good job picking scripts, I think. I wasn't a huge fan of Switch for Christmas, but for the most part, I like her Christmas movies, and I agree. I really liked Shoe Addicts. I thought it was creative. I thought it was funny, and I liked the idea of her going back and seeing all the risks that she could have taken. I thought had some heart, and I thought it was sweet.
I loved her co-star, Jean Smart, in that too.
Amazing. Yeah,
Jean Smart,
agreed.
I know, and I love her from Designing Women. I know she's done a million things since, but I love the TV series Designing Women from the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
And,
yeah, she's phenomenal. I love her in 24. She was so great on the season. But yeah, no, I think that was definitely one of the best. I loved on Lifetime last year. I loved Christmas Perfection. I don't know if you got to see that, but
yes,
that was
on Lifetime. I also loved A Very Nutty Christmas.
Yeah, that was fun. Yeah. And also on I thought Lifetime had a very good slate last year of movies. I really enjoyed most of their films, and I really loved Christmas Pen Pals. That was one of my favorites. It was so good, I thought. I loved I feel like you could even go back to that town and follow more stories of the different pen pals. It was such a cute concept, and I just liked every single character. I thought was good in that, and I've never liked Niall Mater more than in that movie. He was so charming. So it really worked for me. And I liked Road to Christmas a lot from Hallmark. That one was my favorite of them all. I thought that was very well done.
On Hallmark Movies and Mysteries last year, I liked A Veteran's Christmas.
Uh-huh.
And I loved that the veteran in the title character was a woman.
Yeah.
I liked that.
That was sweet. It was a very sweet movie. And I thought that one that surprised me, I didn't think I would like, but I thought Christmas Bells Are Ringing was so good, because I normally am not a fan of Hallmark weddings. I just don't like the bridezilla trope at all. It's not for me. So normally I don't like weddings, but I thought the wedding in that movie was so sweet and so kind and thoughtful, and everybody was being so supportive. I was like, this is fantastic. I love it. So that one really surprised me. I thought it was, and I liked the whole conceit of moving the snowman around and the kind of I just really enjoyed that one. I thought was really good.
Yeah.
It was fun. And Netflix had a really fun year last year, kind of really, I think, for the first time kind of getting in the game. I think the I can't think of the name all of a sudden, but the Kurt Russell one.
Yes, I liked that too.
It was really fun. It was something a little bit different, a little bit more PG-13, I guess I'd say, I think.
Well, and it really differed from the formula, the very contemporary formula of what a Christmas TV movie is too, because it had action sequences, it had special effects, it was larger than life, and that in a way made it more theatrical release than some of these internal emotional stories that we're used to with TV movies, and that made it stand out. And I love Kurt Russell. I mean, like, who doesn't? But I love seeing Oliver Hudson, which is, a family member. And Goldie Hawn made her own little cameo.
Right.
And, I just loved all that.
Yeah, it was really fun. And I actually really enjoyed the Princess Switch, I think it was called, the Vanessa Hudgens one. That I thought was really fun. Enjoyed it. And so there was a pretty fun year to be a Christmas movie fan last year. It makes me excited following all the ones that are already being filmed and everything this year. It's going to be a good year. And we're going to have, I think, a Disney Plus is going to have entering that game with, I think they have one called Noelle, I believe, coming up with Anna Kendrick. So that should be fun. There's going to be a new animated film called Claws, that looks incredible, 2D animation, that I'm really, really excited for on Netflix. So it's going to be a fun year to cover. I'm really looking forward to it. It might kill me, but I'm really excited.
They'll lay our coffins next to each other.
Yeah. Yeah. So my personal, as far as all time Hallmark Christmas movies, my personal favorite is Trading Christmas. I don't know if you've seen that one, but I love it. I think I mean I love
Who was in that?
Faith Ford, Tom Cavanaugh.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. That's based off a best-selling book, right?
Yeah, Debbie McComber,
I
her
knew it.
book. And it's very similar to The Holiday with Cameron Diaz and all
Yes.
that, but I actually prefer it over The Holiday personally, because I'm not that big of a Cameron Diaz fan.
I think I did too.
Yeah.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah.
I like it because it's before they became super, super skittish about any kind of affection in their movies, Hallmark. So there's actually like multiple kisses and multiple like which I enjoy, but also I like the two romances, both sides I think are really well done, super charismatic. And I like that the Faith Ford character kind of comes to, actually there's three romances including her daughter, but I like the fact that the Faith Ford character comes to realize that her grief has been kind of holding her back a little bit and that she needs to embrace life in a new way. And so I thought it had a really sweet message as well as being super romantic. So that was my favorite. Yeah.
I always look for the Hallmark Hall of Fame movies.
Yeah.
The Christmas ones. I always look forward to those too. And
For sure.
the Hallmark Hall of Fame productions have jumped over the decades. This is a very old series of productions, but over the decades, it has jumped all over from different network to different network. And currently, you'll find the Hallmark Hall of Fame productions and the Christmas ones airing on Hallmark Channel.
Right.
But those always have bigger budgets and they have a little extra effort towards, the productions. And so I always look for those.
Yeah.
Those usually are standout.
Yeah, there's some really good Hallmark Hall of Fame ones. I season for Miracles. That one's really good.
Yes.
I love November Christmas. That's one of my favorites.
Yes.
That one's really sweet.
Those are both on the top of my list too.
Yeah, those are really good. I like One Christmas Eve. I think that one's a little bit underrated. People haven't seen it, but it's really funny, and I think it has some diversity. It's just a little bit different, I think.
That one's it entertains the whole family too, I imagine.
Yeah.
Some of these, and that's one of the things I like about Hallmark Hall of Fame too, is that they are all different.
Yeah.
And I remember that one especially. It's got a dog in it, and it could really entertain the entire family.
Yeah, it's a really good one. People should check it out. Also, A Heavenly Christmas, I think, was very sweet. That was written by our friend Greg McBride. And I think he did a good job writing a very sweet story for the holidays. That one's a nice one. But there's lots, and of course, that are great. And last year, Christmas Everlasting, I really didn't like those Friends of Alice. They were not my favorite, but other than that, I thought it was a really sweet little movie.
I really liked seeing an all African American cast.
Yeah, that was fun. They had six movies last year, last Countdown to Christmas or last Hallmark Christmas that had people of color, which I appreciated.
Yes, I did too. Something different, and it's refreshing.
Yeah. And they said, at least they claimed, that they're going to be making some Hanukkah movies this year. They said that last year. So I haven't heard about any that have started filming or anything, but that should be interesting because it'll allow them to kind of do these whole tropes, but it'll feel fresh because it's about Hanukkah instead of about Christmas. And because I think the only one so far that they've ever had is Hitch for the Holidays, which was about people fake fiance thing like that with a Christian and a Christmas and a Hanukkah situation. But that's the only one I can even think of. So that'll be interesting development.
Yes.
Yeah. Because you cover in your book those other holidays.
Yes, I cover anything Hanukkah,
Mm-hmm.
winter solstice, New Year's.
I think the best New
Yes.
Year's special, at least that I know, is I love. There's an episode of How I Met Your Mother that I love with New Year's, where they're all trying to, like, Ted has gotten a limo, and he's finally gonna have fun. They're finally gonna have a good New Year's Eve, because it always ends up being disappointing, and they end up getting lost, and there's like 6 different parties, and people are kind of coming in and out of the limo as they're stuck in traffic, and that one I really like. I think that one's really
that is a good one.
Yeah.
And I almost forgot. I also cover Kwanzaa.
Yeah.
And I actually cover all those winter holidays because it started off in my research, there was an awful lot of overlap.
Uh-huh.
Certain characters on TV would often celebrate or at least acknowledge Christmas and Hanukkah, or Christmas and Kwanzaa, or a story might go from Christmas to New Year's. And so that seemed like a natural part of just researching Christmas stories. But then eventually I discovered that these winter holidays actually all have similar themes, or similar, there's a priority of family. There's often these stories are all about, whether it's Kwanzaa or whether it's New Year's or Hanukkah or Christmas, it's about second chances. It's about forgiveness. It's about being very hopeful. So I just threw all of those winter holidays into the same encyclopedia.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate that. I haven't seen all that many good sort of Hanukkah type stories or kind of things, but I did really enjoy, I think it was last year, maybe the year before, on the Goldbergs, where they had that Beverly Goldberg is getting more and more sort of jealous of some of the Christmas stuff that other people get to do with the lights and the, because she's a big gaudy kind of person, and so she creates this kind of Christmas version of Hanukkah, and it kind of gets out of control, and
to compete with the neighbors.
To compete with the neighbors.
Yeah, that's a good episode.
Yeah.
In fact, one of my favorite Hanukkah stories is actually a Hallmark Hall of Fame from the 70s.
Ooh.
And unfortunately, it's too rare. It's never been released on home video. It should be. They should really pull it out of the vaults and really show this thing around, because it's fantastic. It runs just an hour in length, but it's called "Have I Got a Christmas for You?"
Oh.
And it's about a community that has a lot of Christian residents as well as Jewish residents. And the Jewish residents decide to help their neighbors man the Christian businesses in town, so that those residents and those business owners can spend Christmas with their families.
Oh.
So the Jewish people do this act of kindness for the Christians, and of course that kind of kindness bounces back, and the community feels tighter and more connected, and there's a lot of love and kindness, and it's just a great story. And of course everybody in it's an ensemble piece. Everybody in it is famous, and it's great to see all these famous actors. It's a great story. They really should pull that out, and you should see it again.
That sounds good.
Have I Got a Christmas for You? That's what that's called. But that's a great holiday story.
Is there any others that you feel like, wow, this one's really underrated and people should totally check it out?
There are a lot of things like that.
Yeah, sure.
And I wish, and so many times I'm watching something, I go to the Paley Center in New York City and I watch things in their deep archives, or I go to UCLA Film and Television Archive and I watch things and I'm like, why was this never released on home video? Why aren't more people talking about this? I bet people would really, this would continue to touch people's hearts, and you just never know. One of my favorite examples, though, of lost things is also a story about something that's come back. And it's this crazy movie from 1964. It's called Carol for Another Christmas. It was lost for decades. You could only read about it. I eventually went and saw it in an archive in a museum, but now it's come back and you can actually see it on Turner Classic Movies. It's an adaptation of Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol, but it was written by Rod Serling.
Huh.
Who's, if you...
Twilight Zone.
Yes, he did Twilight Zone, and even before he had his own series with Twilight Zone, he was a very well-respected, critically acclaimed dramatic anthology TV writer, at the top of his field. And he wrote this incredible, and it's very unusual adaptation of A Christmas Carol because it actually has a political message. In fact, it was funded by people who were, it was sponsored by the United Nations. So it has, or sponsored to promote the United Nations. So it's got this diplomatic propaganda political message. It's meant to speak against people, who embrace a political philosophy of isolationism. And if you look back in our government's history, you'll see different eras of, supporting and lack of support for isolationism. So every once in a while, this movie actually becomes relevant again because it embraces this philosophy. But it's Rod Serling, Carol for Another Christmas. It's got a fantastic cast. Sterling Hayden, Peter Sellers, Marie Saint. Again, it was lost forever, and now you can see it on Turner Classic Movies. It was directed by Joseph L. Mankiewicz, so it's got some gravitas, and it's utterly fascinating. And it's just one of these conversation pieces that's interesting to talk about and interesting to see. And again, Dickens, fascinating.
Yeah. Interesting. That's really cool. I hadn't heard of that one. Are there any other sort of like weird or kind of strange things that people do at any of these Christmas movies or specials? I think some of the Rankin Bass can be, I like them, but I think some of them are a little bonkers. Let's put it this way. I don't know. It's not really bonkers, but I do think the Nestor the long-eared donkey is very over the top. Let's put it that way. That one is.
Well, that's certainly, you have to, when you watch that, you have to sit with a box of tissues.
Yeah.
Very torturous how hard I cry every time I see that one.
Nestor the long-eared donkey. I also, what's another one? I love A Town the Year with No Santa Claus. That's my favorite of the Rankin Bass. I think is the best. The Miser Brothers are so fun.
Yes.
So.
I like Santa Claus is Coming to Town. That's sort of explains who Santa is and how all the traditions around Santa came to be. And it's got the Heat Miser, or it's got the Burgermeister Meisterburger.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I love him. Yeah.
Some of theirs, I think the weirdest one that they ever really did was probably either the Leprechaun's Christmas or the Pinocchio's Christmas. That one's really odd.
Yes. And you're talking, later 70s Rankin Bass. And eventually they created 20 Christmas or New Year's themed programs. So, creating that many just means they're going to be pushing the boundaries outwards of Christmas storytelling. But you got to love Rankin Bass. Where would we be if Rankin Bass didn't create all those TV specials?
Yeah. Well, it's surprising how sort of morose some of them are. Like, really, the Frosty the Snowman, that when you really think about it, that animation is a big downer. It's like poor Frosty and these kids.
Yeah, when he melts and the little girl is standing over his puddle crying. Yeah.
That's right.
Yes. Yeah. And let's even point this out. In Rudolph, when Hermie the elf who wants to be a dentist, when he yanks out all the teeth of the abominable snow monster, I mean, like, what?
What is happening here? I know.
Sparking the fear of dentists in children for decades.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
What makes all of this fun is, these stories have sometimes their own ridiculous aspects to them, and we love to look back and laugh about it.
One that I always kind of, I guess, champion that I like is actually the Barbie as a Christmas Carol. And I do have a soft spot for the Barbie movies, and the animation is not great. So you just kind of have to be like, okay, I can deal with it. But I think that the ideas are actually quite clever. I like the idea of this, sort of this aunt, the stage mom, basically, that's kind of forces her into this life, and just like clever things like the fact that instead of cash boxes, there's mirrors and everything's on the chains, and I think that's clever. But also what I like is the fact that the Cratchit character in that movie actually goes on to kind of become in the future kind of goes to become like her. Like, I think her name's Eden, and it becomes like Eden, and that's very sort of shocking for her to see that this person that's usually so sweet in the future becomes like her. Yeah. And I think that's a clever take on Christmas Carol, and so I enjoy that one. But yeah, there's a lot of fun things out there, a lot of eclectic, weird things, and it's fun to see what people come up with given the same, I don't know, basic. You think at a certain point everything will have been done, but yet some people still manage to come up with some creative ideas.
Yes, you just never know.
Yeah. Very, very good. Well, before we go, I wanted to, we have these fun questions that we like to ask our guests. Okay. And this is the holiday version we call it the Teen Beat questions, because Amber found them in Teen Beat, but we have a holiday version of the Teen Beat questions that I wanted to ask you. So here we go. Number 1, what is your favorite holiday drink?
Should I say eggnog?
Yeah, absolutely. All right. What is your favorite holiday cookie or treat?
Oh, I love a frosted, sugar cookie.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Very good. All right. What is your favorite Christmas song or carol?
I like the Holly and the Ivy.
Yeah. Nice. Well, that's a good one. Okay. What is your favorite Christmas feature film, like favorite movie?
This is a little on the border, but I love the 1947, I think it's 47, Miracle on 34th Street.
Yeah, it's so good. He won an Oscar for that, the guy who played Santa. So
I love seeing little Natalie Wood.
Yeah, so cute. It's so good. And a really good romance too, which is fun. Yeah, I agree. That one's really good. Okay. What is your favorite holiday tradition that you just have to do every year?
Oh my goodness. Well, it was true before I was the author of the Encyclopedia of Christmas TV, but I love watching my Christmas animated TV specials.
Yeah.
I love watching A Charlie Brown Christmas.
Yeah. It's not Christmas if I don't watch Charlie Brown. It's just the best. Yeah. Okay. What's a memorable Christmas gift you either given or received?
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. My head is just spinning.
Do you have your Red Ryder BB gun story as a kid?
I don't, but I always wanted a unicycle when I was a kid. And this story I fully acknowledge is ridiculous. But when I was a kid, I was obsessed. I wanted a unicycle. And every year I would look under the tree and I never got it. Aww. But I eventually shared this story with my partner. And he eventually got me my unicycle. So I have the unicycle. So, and that's like the most meaningful gift I've ever gotten.
That's so cute.
Yeah. So not to say that, not to make claim that I know how to ride it, but I have it and I'm ready to learn, but I need to get on it and learn, but I have it. And that was the most meaningful gift I ever got.
That is so cute. If they ever need an idea, a unicycle Christmas movie, they can make that. That sounds
Really?
good.
I should get a piece of that.
Yeah. All right. Do you prefer Scrooge or the Grinch?
Wow. I'm going to say the Grinch.
Ah, very good. Okay. Clear lights or colored?
Oh my goodness, clear.
Okay. Snowball fight or building a snowman?
Building a snowman.
Okay. Would you say you're a good gift wrapper or not so much?
I'm very good.
Ooh.
I love wrapping gifts. Very detail-oriented person, and I love. In fact, when I am with somebody else who's wrapping a gift, I'm often like, "Do you just want me to do that? Should I just do that?"
Very good. All right. Do you have an ugly Christmas sweater? What is it? What's your ugly Christmas sweater?
I don't have an ugly Christmas sweater, but I have many ugly Christmas TV T-shirts.
Ah. Do you have a favorite? Which of your ugly Christmas?
I have one with the Grinch on it that I love. I've been wearing forever.
Cute. Very good. Well, you passed the test.
Ding, 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 ding. Yay!
So, do you want to tell people where they can find you on social media, where they can purchase your book, all of that fun stuff?
Thank you. Yes, I'd love to. I've got a website. You can find me at christmastvhistory.com. And you can contact me through there. You can also find me on social media, on Instagram and on Twitter. I'm at 'Tis a Season TV. And actually, that's also on Facebook.
Great. Yeah, we will have links for all that in the description section. We'll also have a link on Barnes & Noble and Amazon where you can purchase the book and you take a look. That would be really fun. And thanks so much. This was so much fun.
It was fun. Thank you for this invitation.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to have you on again. And when it gets closer to Christmas, we're in the thick of things.
Oh, that
would be fun. That would be really fun. So, well, very good. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. And make sure you guys are following the podcast, all over social media, Hallmarkies Pod, and on iTunes and on YouTube. If you're listening on iTunes, if you could give us your ratings and reviews. If you're listening on YouTube, if you could give us thumbs up and a subscription to the channel, we really appreciate that as well. And you can follow me at Rachel's Reviews, all over social media, and on iTunes and YouTube as well. So that I would really appreciate that. And thanks again, Joanna. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you, Rachel. This has been great for me too.
And Merry Christmas!
Merry Christmas.
Bye.